All right. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good night, wherever you're joining from. Welcome today. This is the African Science Frontiers Initiatives. We'll call it ASFI in short. This is our monthly science seminar series where we try to bring African scientists together to hear from ourselves, to be inspired by ourselves, so that together we can use our skills to produce Africa that meets our needs. So welcome. Today we have very fantastic and very expected talk today by our brother Prof. Mahmoud Maina. I will introduce him at the right time, but I am Bright Waru. I'm the convener of this platform. I'm joining you from the city of Gothenburg in Sweden. For those who are joining us for the first time, I'm a professor of epidemiology, respiratory diseases, and allergology here at the University of Gothenburg. And I have my colleague, co-convener of this platform, Dr. Emma Sop. I will allow her to say a few words before I kickstart. But please, welcome. And I would like you, as usual, you are all muted, but please use the chat box to just give us a few words about yourself and where you're joining from. And I tell you, there are many connections that have been made from this platform. And so please, as you listen, just find a few seconds to tell us about yourself. Eman, please.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to meet you all here today in African Science Seminar Series. My name is Iman Sobh. I am Associate Professor of Respiratory Medicine at Al Azhar University, Egypt, and also currently working at Taiba University, Saudi Arabia. I am a respiratory physician, and also I am the ASFI, Director of Science and Communication. I see that our family, ASFI family, is getting bigger and bigger, and each seminar we see new faces. I am wishing that all of you will enjoy being with us, um, knowing each other, communicating, collaborating, and also get engagement in several research and scientific activities. This is a great opportunity for each one to be involved to update and upgrade their career pathway. And also, this is environment for a healthy research, communication, and healthy scientific collaboration. So don't miss this opportunity. Today, we have one of our inspirational ASFI stories. So it's time for you to get motivated, to be excited, to know that efforts anywhere in Africa or worldwide needs to be appreciated and also the steps be followed forward. Thank you, everyone, and nice to meet you virtually and looking forward to meeting you physically in future event. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Eman. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will make a few introduction to ASFI for the benefit of those who have not been part of us, joining us for the first time. Yes, sorry, something happened. I'll share it again. Okay. All right. Okay, so yeah, today is an expected talk, and I think people are looking very much forward to it. So I will make a few remarks before I introduce the speaker for today. He will be talking about his journey back home to do something that is novel because it is the first. But his emphasis will also be on how local connections meet global collaborations. All right, so the African Science Frontiers Initiatives, we have been running this seminar series since 2021. Previous sessions are all on our YouTube channel. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll find those sessions. So each year we have a theme we work on. And this year we are looking at from collaboration to impact. So we have been really digging into the issue of collaboration, its benefits, challenges, how to form them, and how to nurture fruitful collaborations. So from January to June, we looked at some fundamental issues around collaboration. And since July, we have been inviting colleagues from across board to share their story about collaboration. All right. So yeah, this is the journey we have had. And this year we have a different format. We have been running this so far. Before this year, we have been inviting people to speak, and then we discuss, and then we go home. But this year we wanted to take a more practical journey in which we allow the participant to engage, also be part of this process. So we have what we call collaborative research groups we have formed, in which participants from January have been divided into different collaborative research groups to allow them to not just hear from others, but to also build their own collaboration, multidisciplinary collaboration, because ASFI is a multidisciplinary platform, multi-country platform. We have participants from over 45 countries in Africa, coming from different disciplines, but we speak one language, and that language is that our continent is not where we desire it to be. And through such collaborations, brotherhood, working together, we begin to see clearer what we can do together to contribute to making our society a better place. So the goal is for the collaborative research groups to come together and build a system that will begin to produce output as we go through the year. Not just what happens in this year, but also taking them beyond this year. Okay, so each meeting will have the presentation by the speaker, and after that, the collaborative research groups are sent out to their breakout sessions for about 45 minutes or so, and then to see where they are with their project. Okay, so that will also happen today. That there will be a breakout session after the presentation, so that the collaborative research groups can catch up and discuss. Okay, and then to see that what we are doing this year is meeting its goals, we also have evaluations. So bi-monthly, we send out evaluation questionnaire to the collaborative research group members to indicate where and what has been happening in their group, the challenges they are having, the progress they are making, and whether they are meeting their anticipated goals. Okay, so far we have speakers to present their viewpoint of collaboration from July to October. We may not have a seminar in November for obvious reasons, and possibly in December, because by that time the holidays have taken over in December. But in November, because November is usually our conference month, our multidisciplinary conference, I will tell you a little bit about that. Yeah, but in October we'll have another part of our mother, Prof. Olubukola Babalola, will be sharing her perspective on the pain and gain of research collaboration. I think this is something you will not want to miss. Okay, regarding our conference, since 2023, we have been running the annual, it's a virtual event, annual virtual multidisciplinary conference. And the theme for this year is also around collaboration, beyond boundaries, breaking collaborative frontiers for impactful research and career. And I tell you, this year is special because we're not just having the conference, we're also having pre-conference workshops. We have 2 workshops organized by the ASFI Junior Assembly members. They're organizing this, right? Because they want to learn more about enriching your CV for success and the issue of visibility. These are aspects that many academics, professionals suffer from. So these topics they have chosen, we are organizing before the conference, the day before the conference starts, 24th of November, we have 2 workshops, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. This workshop is freely available to all ASFI members, those in senior assembly and those in the junior assembly. It's free for them, okay, whether they register for the conference or not. But if you're not a member of ASFI, you need to register for the conference before you can access these workshops. So we encourage you to register. Registration is still ongoing. You can see the details down here. My colleagues will be putting the links on the chat box if you want to join. This year is going to be powerful. Several programs have been outlined, and I believe that it will support your advancement as a scientist. And then just to let you know that we are now at the stage of late breaking abstracts. They keep coming. And I tell you, I think the abstract we have received this year have already surpassed what we have received in previous years. And we keep counting. So if you have not submitted, you have 2 days. You have 2 days to submit. It is where you get your voice heard. It is where you tell the story of what you are doing in your labs, in your research areas. So please take advantage of the 48 hours we have to submit your abstract to the conference. All right, one program we are really excited about. We are launching in 2026. Application is over, but for those who have not had the privilege to hear about this program, we call it ASFI 510 program. It's a program we have initiated since the 5 years we have been in operation. We have addressed the needs of many individuals. ASFI has trained over 5,000 African scientists in different skills, research skills. But from 2026, we want to also integrate to support institutions across Africa. So we are launching this program in which we want to train 5 scholars from an institution. We are recruiting 10 institutions from each of the 5 regions in Africa. 10 institutions, 5 candidates from each institution, 10 institutions in the 5 regions, meaning that we'll be training and mentoring at least 250 candidates. The application is closed. We received around 115 applications across the continent, institutions, whether they are universities, governmental institutions, non-governmental institutions. We are currently now screening them so that we are able to appoint or select the institutions that will participate in this program. For those who are ASFI members who have been part of us, we are also planning to see how you can be part of it. But I will tell you that story when we come back from our breakout sessions, because we have something exciting for you as well. All right, colleagues, this evening, as I've told you, we want to relax to hear from our brother, Prof. Mahmoud Maina, who will be speaking to us about his story. I got to know him when his profile and his story published in one of the Nigerian newspapers was posted on ASFI platform, and I read it. It was quite inspiring for me personally, because I have worked in the US, in the UK for some years, and so when I heard the story of his success with the Wellcome Trust fellowship, it was quite inspiring to me, because I know what that is and what it takes to get it, and particularly for an African to scale through that. So I thought that I would look out for him to bring him on board to share his story with fellow young scientists in the ASFI network. And I contacted him. He had no hesitation, and he responded that, yes, I will be there. All right. So, Prof. Mahmoud, thank you. Prof. Mahmoud Maina is a scientist whose work focuses on understanding Alzheimer's disease and related brain disorders. He's a Wellcome Trust Fellow, as I've mentioned, and a Tau Consortium investigator. All right, he's the director of the Biomedical Science Research and Training Center at Yobe State University in Nigeria, and a professor of neuroscience at the Newgate University in Maina, also in Nigeria. He's also a lead research group, a research group leader at the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom. His research has helped to uncover how certain proteins in our brain, such as tau and amyloid beta, contribute to memory loss and damage in Alzheimer's disease. His discoveries have shed light on why some forms of these proteins are especially toxic and how they clump together in the brain. Prof. Maina is passionate about making science more inclusive, and that is why he founded the Biomedical Science Research and Training Center in 2021 to advance medical research in Nigeria and Africa. His team is now creating stem cell models from African volunteers to study how our genes influence brain diseases. And this work could lead to treatment better tailored for diverse populations. Beyond research, Prof. Maina is a leading advocate for scientific development in Africa, and I tell you, this aligns with ASFI vision and mission. He has founded multiple initiatives to strengthen science across the continent. He has mentored several students in Africa and the UK, and he's an advisor to the government of Yobe State in Nigeria, as well as several funding organizations. He has received numerous awards, including the Alba FKNN Diversity Prize, the University of Sussex Research Impact Award, and the Royal Society of Biology Science Communication Award. Well, he's not only a scientist, he's a traditional man, because he is the holder of a title called Shetima Imube, Guardian of Knowledge of Damaturu Kingdom in Yobe State. I can go on and on, colleagues, but for the sake of time, let me stop here and invite our Prof. Mahmoud Maina. The floor is yours, and we are eagerly waiting to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Bright, for the invitation. I usually feel a bit jittery when people go on to go on and on talking about what I am or who I am. I kind of just like to talk about the business of the day straight without those uh, nitty-gritties. But thank you very much. It's quite humbling to be introduced like that. I'm trying now to share my screen. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Is it the full screen or is it the one with the slides?
Is it full screen?
Okay. So once again, thank you very much for the invitation. And having had you speak about ASFI, I believe that this is probably one of the most important forums where I deserve or I should be given a talk about what we've been doing because of the representation by Africans. So thank you very much for the invitation. So what I'm going to do is to start by telling you a little bit of my story. But I know a lot of you are busy. So if you've you've only got like 1 or 2 minutes to stay by and listen to this talk, this slide summarizes everything. What I want to talk to you about today is the African IPSC initiative, which is I believe, a major initiative that allows us to kind of get diverse donors from across Africa, collect their skin biopsies or blood cells that we can use produce stem cells that we can bank in an open access kind of model. And why this is very, very important is simply because this will allow us or open the gateway for biomedical discoveries in the African continent. This would allow us, for example, to model diseases from Africans. It will allow us to kind of personalize medicine to address challenges in a ways that we've never done before. So if all you gotta do is, today is to listen to this, what's the summary of my presentation, then this is it. But if you have time, then what I'm gonna do now is walk you through the story, how we, got there. So because of that, this is the outline of my presentation. I've got the first part, second part, third part, fourth, and sixth, trying to give you a story of how it happened. All right, let me start with the journey, how it started. So I was born and raised in Yobe State, born in Guru, in Yobe State. And I went to my primary school, obviously in Guru. And then after that, I went to do my secondary education at FGC Bunyadi. So if you look at this photo, this is, I can't remember actually which year it was, but basically this is my classmates in secondary school, and this is me in the front. And after completing my secondary education, I went to study at the University of Maiduguri, human anatomy, and this is me, trying to, do some research, serious scientist. Um, so of course, after I completed my undergraduate education, I started working at Federal University, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital in Maiduguri before going to start working at Gombe State University. But why I decided to walk you through this is simply because one thing that became very clear to me quite early on is that across these different either schools or institutions that I have worked at, I realized, and of course the communities, I realized that we do have a lot of science misconceptions, and also we do have serious resource challenges. And I don't know whether these are mutually inclusive, but I do know that this combination of these promote kind of perhaps bad policies, or it kind of negatively influence science policies. So this end up now being a positive feedback where you have challenges in resources that perhaps because of that we don't do good science, which promote the misconception about science, and which for that make policymakers become dependent on science done outside the African continent. And of course, several years later on, I wanted to establish that this theory that I have is indeed the case by assembling a team of over 20 scientists across Africa and some in Europe, where we kind of profile, the neuroscience research happening within the African continent over the last 2 decades. And that confirmed to me that resource challenges is a major, factor, that influences how good science we do. Because here what we have is that in that paper, we try to categorize techniques into advanced and simple techniques. And advanced techniques are techniques that are very perhaps fancy to have in laboratories. They are mostly found in, outside Africa, like in the UK, USA. And what you see across the continent is that some countries don't even have publications having this equipment. And Nigeria, the most populous Black nation on earth, you could see we have a lot of publications, but then using very kind of very few of such techniques. So of course, I realized therefore, for me to perhaps achieve my ambition, which is to become a neuroscientist, I needed to migrate, or I needed to move to a more developed place where I would get the best training. And so that led me to the United Kingdom, where I had my master's. So this was, I think this photo was taken immediately after our master's last exams with my classmates. And after that, I stayed back there because I got a Chancellor's International Research Scholarship funded by the University of Sussex fully to do my PhD under a renowned structural biologist, Professor Louis Sarpel, which I completed in 2017. And then, of course, I stayed to do my postdoc until 2022 when I received an independent funding from Alzheimer's Association that enabled me to start my independent research. And of course, my journey has been quite exciting because during that time, some of the key highlights, I guess, is that I was able to publish over 30 papers that provided key insights into tau biology and Alzheimer's disease, but also it set the foundation, or set the stage for me to begin investigating how African ancestry or why we need to study African ancestry in the context of diseases. And this has been really, really been possible because throughout my time there, therefore, I kind of like acquired skills across scales from biophysics to imaging and functional assays that I continue to utilize in my lab today to answer scientific questions. So really the Maina lab scientific mission is to harness the rich ancestral genetic diversity of indigenous African populations to elucidate the molecular mechanisms driving tau pathologies. And I know that this audience is quite diverse, so I'm not going to go to the molecular mechanisms, but I hope, many of you will agree that this image here is quite beautiful. This is a cell, a nucleus in blue, and then the yellow part is there are proteins that we study. They basically show you that these proteins are localized in one location. So for this part of the talk, I guess the summary is that my personal journey into dementia research has been guided by one core principle, that scientific equity begins with representation. It's only when I acquired those skills that I now became qualified to perhaps start talking about why we need to have understand diseases from the context of ancestral genetic diversity. Now, in the second part of the talk, what I would like to do is now walk you through why inequity in models, is a problem, why representation matters. All right. Now, look at the wall as it is today. You can see the wall is looking quite beautiful, how it should be looking, drawn according to perfection. Each region having its map, the landmass and everything. And Africa is there in green, yeah? All right, now if you try to look at the world by epidemics, you see that Africa is overrepresented. And again, also, if you try now to look at deaths from epidemics, again, you see that Africa is overrepresented. Now, you would be wondering, or you should be thinking that since there are a lot of epidemics and people dying from epidemics in Africa, we should have high level of publications from Africa that should help us understand these problems. But unfortunately, if you now look at the world map by scientific publications, you see that Africa barely exists. Now, this is really, really problematic. Not just because, of course, we need to reclaim back our landmass, not just because of that, but again, also because this limits African populations from fully accessing global biomedical advances. And again, I like to also make another argument. If you look at the world as it is today, we are not all the same. I mean, even within my own house, you could say that if you look at my father and my mother and my brothers, I might be a bit lean, or my sister might be leaner, or might be more kind of chubbier than me, So we all have our differences. And this is why in this photo, and I can't claim that this is mine, and this is why I put the link where you can get it. It's trying to show the people of the world. Basically, you can see that the world is comprised of people of different ancestry. We are all different in our own way. And this is so important because we know that that also means the diet, the environment, the genetics, many different things are different between different individuals. And that is so, so important for understanding human health and diseases. And if I want to be more scientific, I could now show you this map, which shows the global human genetic diversity. And the more yellowish it is here, the more the area has high level of genetic diversity. And of course, Africa has the highest genetic diversity of all continents. And what that means is that, according to some reports, the minute difference between one African and another African is likely or can be more bigger than the difference between a European and a Japanese in terms of their the minute genetic differences. So this is a big deal because it means that if we are not represented in research, we are losing out on a lot of different things. And also, by us not being represented, also means that the world is missing something that is substantial. And I would like to now give you some case studies on why this is really, really important. And I'd like to start by perhaps giving you an example, with cystic fibrosis. So now, cystic fibrosis is a condition in which the cells that make mucus, perhaps in our digestive system, end up producing, secretions that are very thick. So these secretions end up kind of blocking the kind of pipes, if I may call that, in either the pancreas or in the lungs, for example. And that, of course, is a serious problem. But why I'm trying to give you an example with this is because it is strongly taught as a white disease. And this has been, a misconception, that has been going on for a long, long time. But even today, I believe in the United States, a lot of African Americans so far, are a bit kind of marginalized in diagnosis of this condition, simply because initially, when the diagnosis of these conditions, when the discovery was made, and also, some variants or mutations were discovered that causes this condition, and these variants that were discovered in the European ancestry population, and they are overrepresented in that population, such that diagnostic kits were produced based on those variants. And unfortunately, a lot of the variants that causes this condition in the African ancestry population are not the same as those in the European population, which basically at some point even create the notion that in Africa, perhaps people don't have this condition. And if I would be more scientific in this case, let me show you that the pie chart shows you the variant that causes this condition. So this F508 del, which is a variant, is overrepresented in the European population. You can see that it is the major cause of the cystic fibrosis in European population. However, if you come to African population, you will see that there are other variants, like this green is one variant, and then this is also another variant, and this is another variant. And in fact, there are over 2,500 variants in the gene that causes this condition, and hundreds of these variants are believed to cause this cystic fibrosis. And therefore, think about just being an African and just waiting to consume the discoveries made from European population, and suddenly realizing that the kit that was purchased, for example, in Europe or in America and brought to Nigeria to diagnose a particular condition shows that no one has that condition simply because the discovery was made on European population. And therefore, you sit down there with a condition, not realizing that you are having it, and people start dying. So this is exactly why we must study our own population. We must do this work from in our own people to be able to address these challenges. So this is just one example. And a second example is in the case of dementia. So this is my area of specialty because dementia is a condition that affects our brains. It starts by stealing away the memories of people that have this condition, and eventually people kind of lose the ability to conduct activities of daily living, and eventually that makes them susceptible to opportunities, conditions that sometimes results in their kind of cause of death. Now, before giving you the case study for dementia, I'd like to show you that this is the estimate about dementia by 2050. Basically, Africa is expected to have over 300% rise in dementia cases in the year 2050. So basically in the next 25 years. This is scary, isn't it? Now, what I've done, before this presentation, is to look into the literature to now see how much dementia research is happening in the African continent. And basically, what this shows me is that if you try to basically look at all publications, perhaps in PubMed or in other locations, you see that dementia research in the rest of the world is, of course, rising. But in Africa, it's almost not existent. Of course, now it's beginning to go up. But this is very, very problematic because it shows that Africa is unprepared to tackle this challenge that is about to affect our continent in the next 25 years. Okay, but why am I giving you this story? Simply because one of the major risk factor or one of the major non-genetic risk factor for dementia or specifically Alzheimer's disease today is a protein called ApoE. And this protein comes in 3 flavors. The green one, which I like to call the good, the blue one, which I like to call the neutral, and the red one, which I like to call the bad. And basically, ApoE4, the red one, is is highly abundant in the African population. So if you look at the map here, it shows you that in Africa, there are a lot of people having ApoE4. Yeah. Now, the tricky part of this is that ApoE4 turns out to be, if someone has this ApoE4 variant, it increases their risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, especially if they are Japanese. And, if they're European, the risk is a bit lower, and African Americans a bit lower. So the more Africans they are, the less that is a risk factor for them for the development of Alzheimer's disease. Now, there are a few studies from Egypt, Algeria, and Tunisia, for example, showing that the ApoE4 is associated with Alzheimer's, and some studies showing that, from Morocco, Nigeria, or Kenya, that it's not associated, yeah? But overall, I always like to tell people that when they say, for example, studies in Nigeria, what does that mean? Does that mean that this study was conducted on over the 200 million people that are located in Nigeria, or what? But actually, it's not. This is a study that was, conducted, by some of the pioneers in the field at the University of Ibadan, but it largely focused on the southwestern population. So, and we know even Nigeria is very ethnically diverse, so we can't really tell if that finding is applicable to the other population within the continent. But most importantly, these were studies that were conducted on people, genetic association with the development of Alzheimer's disease, but there was never a cellular studies to confirm whether the condition, the ApoE4 is either causing pathology or is not causing pathology in our own population. Enough of the science. What I'm trying to tell you in a nutshell is that despite this uncertainty about ApoE4 is routinely used in clinical trials to identify at-risk individuals, monitor therapy response, and predict safety outcomes. This means that populations where ApoE4 biology is less understood, like our population, risk being excluded from both research and future treatments. So you see, this is another reason why we must take responsibility, we must take lead in studying such conditions in our own population. And to do that, we need well-characterized cohorts and models to understand the role of ApoE on dementia in Africans. But the key question is, are these models really available? So I'd like to show this map again. This is not a map that, it's a map that shows Alzheimer's disease prevalence like 20 to 25 years ago. So, but I like to use it in a little bit, in a cheeky way. Basically, I like to use it to demonstrate how much Alzheimer's disease research or dementia research is happening today. So forgive me if you are one of the co-authors of this paper. I'm misusing the graph, the map. But basically, it's showing you that research on this condition is barely existing in these other locations like Africa, for example. But we end up making discoveries sometimes on populations that are completely excluded from the mainstream research. And I'll give you an example by going to Colombia. So let's go to Colombia, Mendellin specifically. This is Aliria Rosa. So Aliria Rosa died a few years ago from cancer. But there is something very unique about Aliria that I wanted to share with this audience today. Basically, our researchers have been studying Aliria Rosa's family for decades, and they've been able to identify over 600 people from her family that have a mutation that causes them to develop Alzheimer's disease at a young age, between the age of 40 and 50. So basically, members of that family are part of what is called the PISA cohort. So over 600 people were identified to have that mutation. And if you have that mutation, it means that by the age of 40 and to 45, 50, you develop Alzheimer's disease, unfortunately. However, Aliria Rosa ended up, she lived up to the age of 74, I think, and died from cancer, even though she had that mutation. So that was really, really mind-blowing, because how could she have the mutation that is a sentence for her to develop that condition, but she never developed it? Now, scientists began to study this, and they realized that Aliria had a mutation on a protein called, on ApoE, that same ApoE protein, but it's a mutation that is called Christchurch mutation, and that really gave her a protection against Alzheimer's disease. So it's more like the evil and the good fought. So the bad mutation that causes Alzheimer's disease was defeated by the mutation on the Christchurch side, which now help her not to develop the condition. And so now there are even clinical, drugs being produced that mimic that condition. So, but what am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that perhaps you can make discovery that is groundbreaking by studying a population that is so remote in a village somewhere, perhaps in South America or in Africa. And this is exactly what we need to do to be able to also address this in our own population. But then, of course, there are challenges. In Africa, for example, access to some of the models that we use today to understand this condition is a problem. Because to understand dementia, because it has to do with the brain, you need to have people give you access to their brain. You need donation. And this is a taboo in our own population, because of religious or cultural misconceptions. And this is where Ipsc comes in. Now, what are iPSCs? So iPSCs stand for induced pluripotent stem cells. And think about it. When when a husband and wife meet during sexual activity, the sperm and the egg end up kind of like producing something eventually that is called a zygote that now ends up producing something called blastocyst. And this blastocyst is, has a lot of kind of stem cells in it, embryonic stem cells. And it is this stem cell, so because these embryonic stem cells have the ability to become any cell type. So think about it, they can grow into eye, ear, lungs, or whatever, and this is how you end up being who you are as a human. You end up having your limbs, everything, But now, this technology, which is to produce these induced pluripotent stem cells, is able to now use some cells like from blood or from skin biopsies to produce stem cells also that have the ability to be converted into any bodily cell type without going into the blastocyst or going back to the embryonic stage from someone who is in the womb to say give us some stem cells. No, that is invasive, that is not allowed. So we are able to do this using a different approach, and that has a lot of potential in drug discovery and medical treatment. So this is exactly what we are trying to do now, because if you can now grow these iPSCs, it means that you don't need to ask someone to donate their brains to you. You can actually be able to grow brains from people's blood, for example, and that can now allow you to start studying diseases like dementia. Yeah. And this was a discovery that led to a Nobel Prize in 2012 because it's such a groundbreaking discovery led by Shinya Yamanaka, in Japan. But then, I was looking again into the literature to see how much iPSC work is happening in Africa. And again, you can see, rest of the world, iPSC research is a lot, but then across Africa, it's more like nothing is happening. And given that Africa has a, huge genetic diversity, you should be even thinking that iPSC models should be this green line. That is, there's a lot in Africa and perhaps lower in the rest, in the rest of the world because Africa are more genetically diverse. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So basically, this can limit Africans from fully accessing global biomedical advancements and represent a missed opportunity for global breakthroughs. And therefore, our goal in my team is to establish an open access, ethnically diverse iPSC biobank from indigenous Africans to enable understanding of dementia mechanism across ancestries. And I guess also this gives you the summary of these slides about the importance of what we're trying to do. And now going into the third part, I want to now walk you through the first leap, how we are able to generate iPSC cells. I know, so basically we started this journey from Nigeria simply because, of course, I was born and raised in Nigeria and I have more connections there. And basically to grow these cells, which is the first of its kind in indigenous Nigerians, we started by recruiting people who gave us biopsies. So this is a donor that was given us a skin biopsy. And from this skin biopsy now, we can now go to the lab to now start producing precursor cells. So in this case, when we collected the skin biopsy, I started this work in the lab of my mentor, Professor Isa Hussein Marte. The lab is at the University of Maiduguri, and this was me with him at that time. I collect tissue, and then I go from the hospital quickly to the university where I start processing the biopsies. And unfortunately, I know there was a time when the COVID-19 was happening, and so almost for a year the lab was not used. And because of the epileptic nature of power in Nigeria, as well as many other African countries, I believe his lab uses solar to power the incubators. But what I'm trying to show you is that it was really challenging because the incubator was not always telling us whether there is CO2 in it. This is Professor Issa trying to fix the problem there. sometimes it will show us that the CO2 is normal, but actually it's not. So basically, we face a lot of challenges, and at some point I had to go to the polio lab in Maiduguri that gave me some media that I used to culture the cells. In fact, I was in Maiduguri on the day of Eid, which is one of the biggest celebration for Muslims. I was in the lab basically trying to work on this project, getting them to work. Something that was supposed to just take a few weeks to do, like 2, 3 weeks, took me almost 3 months. Eventually, I was able to get what I was looking for. So these are fibroblasts, and this is the biopsy that I collected. But basically, even after doing that, I had some challenges in the mattress lab. For example, the hemocytometer was faulty. This is something that you need to count cells. And then there was no -80 freezer. So storage of the cells that I was able to grow was a problem. And also in his liquid nitrogen biobank, also there was no space. So I didn't have enough space to store them. So at the end of the day, I had to transport the samples to the United Kingdom, yeah? And even transporting that sample came with its own challenge. I transported about 8 vials, all of them died. And then I had to come back to Nigeria to collect the rest of the vials that were in the liquid nitrogen storage. At the end of the day, only one survived. So it was really, really challenging. But at the end, anyway, we were able to get the fibroblasts, which is something that we wanted to grow. And also my student, so Zaid, and Phoebe, they both did their master's dissertation in Sussex, with me. We were able to now generate the stem cells. So these are basically the stem cells that we're talking about, and we were able to use other techniques to confirm that they are indeed stem cells. Yeah. But despite the challenges, and having done that, we now said that, okay, we needed to now expand this. We needed to generate more because Africa is quite diverse. Even Nigeria is quite diverse. So now in 2022, we started now growing some, collecting more biopsies from in Yobe, from different ethnic groups, which I was collaborating with Celeste Katch, who is a good, collaborator, but also a mentor in the United States. And we collected biopsies. This was my team at that time. Dr. Murtala was my postdoctoral fellow, and then this is Abrahman, a PhD student of mine, our surgeon, and then these are surgical nurses. So yeah, we were able to collect biopsies, but again, because we didn't have the infrastructure, I had to ship the samples to the United States, where we generated the fibroblasts, and then we banked them. This is like different techniques showing you that indeed we have generated the stem cells, and this is something that we published recently. And on top of that, what we have done is we use genetic engineering to now introduce mutations that we know can cause dementia into some of these cells, so that we can now be able to understand in cells that you grow from Africans and you introduce mutations, how is dementia going to start developing in this? So basically, you are not studying the person, you are not waiting for the person to develop dementia, you are basically introducing mutation in a lab to see if it was in a person of an African origin, how is it going to behave? So this is something that we have published. But in summary, this is just to tell you that we've generated the first open access iPSC lines from indigenous Africans, not just for dementia research, but to advance global biomedical science through more inclusive models. Now, what I'd like to do is to now switch gears. But before doing that, I'd like to tell you something. If anything, I believe this tells you the importance of building local capacity, because we collect these cells, and because we don't have the capacity locally, we have to ship them to either UK or United States to be able to process them. And in fact, to ensure sustainability, community trust, representation, and ethical sovereignty, and ultimately accelerate global scientific advances, it is essential to establish iPSC capacity within Africa. And this is what I'm trying to now tell you in the fourth part. Because for you to do that, you have to have the infrastructure, yeah? Right. This is again the publications that I showed you. The publication that I showed you earlier that I led a few years ago, where we confirmed that one of the major challenges in Africa to be able to do this level of science, grow stem cells and do other things, is the lack of the infrastructure. And then the question is, what is the solution? Yeah. So I was part of a Wellcome Trust panel that was so Wellcome Trust is the second largest funder of biomedical research, after Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And like 3 or 4 years ago, I was invited by them to join a panel of scientists that would try to understand what is needed to address some of these challenges affecting Africa. And I was the co-chair of that team alongside Professor Cathy Donald at the University of Cape Town. To cut the story short, we worked for 2 years, engaged with diverse stakeholders, and one of the solutions that we come up with is that we need to create multiple interconnected hubs with good infrastructure for training so that more African scientists can develop their research within the continent. So basically, our report alongside the other team members showed that, for example, if you are in Nigeria, ideally we should have another hub within Nigeria that they can talk to each other, and another one perhaps in Ghana, another one in Egypt. So basically, if my lab has something and there's another lab elsewhere, let's say in Lagos, that doesn't has something that I don't have, they need to be able to talk to each other, and that is the best way to advance African science. Yeah. And this is how I came up, I established the Biomedical Science Research and Training Center with the full support of the US state government, but at the same time, a lot of kind of colleagues and collaborators. And this is now the story I want to give you. So I'm changing gears so that you can understand my story is all about building things, but there are different kind of units that helped us to patch everything together. Yeah. So BioRTC as it stands today, unfortunately, in a nation of over 220 million people, which is Nigeria, and over 170 universities, BioRTC stands out as the only advanced imaging core facility with advanced imaging equipment. Yeah. This is where it is at the moment. And in the center, we have equipment worth over 5 billion naira. And the center is being driven by highly talented, established advisory board from all around the world, United States, Europe, Africa, Asia. And in the center, we have four major research themes. Yeah, we have research theme focusing on infectious diseases. We have research focusing on cellular neuroscience, neurodegeneration as well. But most importantly, because of our track record and the support from the US state government, we are currently leading one of the major research problems affecting the region, which is a kidney disease of unknown origin. So the center is leading this effort, and which I believe, if we are able to find a solution, is going to be a milestone. Is going to be a major story for science in Nigeria or across Africa, because this project is one of the, is one of the only state-funded research that I've come across in Africa. So basically, it's a center, therefore, that now does a lot of different things. For example, for this project, we have a team of over 50 experts from nephrologists to basic scientists, statisticians, environmentalists, geologists, etc., etc. And in addition to the research that we are leading, this is a center that is also building capacity of people. So for the last 4 years, we've been organizing summer schools, and because of time, I'm not going to walk through all these different things, but just to tell you that it's a major hub building capacity of people within not just Nigeria, but in the African continent. Yeah. And within the center also, we are building the capacity of our staff to ensure that they are trained in the best places so that they can come back and train other people. So, for example, we send people to the UK, we send people to USA, Japan, India, Uruguay, etc., all to acquire new skills and come back and empower people. And this is the demographics of the people that we have trained. We've trained people from as far as Algeria, Egypt, the Gambia. So people have all come to this center to get trained, and people from across Africa, across the world, sorry, have come to the center to participate as faculties. So we've had people from the United States, from Canada, Germany, so many different places. Yeah. And also we try to adopt an open access model where we give people from anywhere access to the facilities within the center, because I'm a strong believer of open access in order for us to advance understanding of issues within Africa. If we just say this is our center and we are not going to allow anyone to come and access it, it means that we will not be able to go far. They say in Africa, if you want to go far, yeah, go as part of a team, or if you want to, I can't even remember the saying, but basically, we know that if you work as part of a team, you can go far. Yeah. If you work alone, you will perhaps become famous, but you will not be able to accelerate, have an acceleration of breakthroughs as quicker. Yeah. So basically, this is a center, therefore, that allow people to come in to use the space that we have. In our website, we have a resource page where people can go in to see all the equipment that we have. And therefore, if they see that we have the equipment that they'll allow them to answer their scientific question, now they can come and apply to come to the center and spend some time to do their research. And already we have supported a lot of people. A lot of people were able to complete their projects because of the access that they have to the center. A lot of people have developed new ideas. A lot of people also have got their proposal accepted for either master's or PhD. So I believe that we have been making a lot of impact. But importantly, we are working very closely with the government. And I have to say here that the government of Yobe State is like unique and different in this instance. His Excellency, the Governor of Yobe State, has been tremendously supportive of the Biomedical Science Research and Training Center from the inception. If not because of the support that his government has given to this center, we wouldn't have reached, where we are today. So, for example, they provide support with funding, they provide support with our summer school activities. They have finished building a new center for us. So a lot of the success that we have achieved is because of this. And so we have therefore a very good working relationship with the government as well as with policy makers. And because of that, His Excellency even spared his time to go to the UK a few years ago to meet collaborators that are now part of the kidney research that we are leading, but also to be able to meet other collaborators and partners for BioRTC so that he will best support the center to become a center of excellence. So now what I'm going to do quickly, I know I'm running out of time, is to tell you now, how did this happen? And this is very, very important for this audience, I believe, because you may want to say, okay, I want to establish something. How did it happen? So these are some of the encounters that really changed everything, yeah? In 2009, I got an admission to go and study neuroscience in Sussex. Unfortunately, I couldn't go because of visa issues. I had to stay for a year. In 2011, I applied for a summer school that was organized by Train in Africa. At that time, Train in Africa has not been established, but basically, these three individuals came together and organized a neuroscience summer school in Uganda. And I applied, I got admitted, but I had to go to Sussex. But so now when I went to Sussex, this is my class at the University of Sussex, and my colleagues. I met Professor Seipel, who has been an incredible mentor of mine. And that really changed a lot of things. It changed my perception. It changed my thinking. It made me realize that, science can be best done if you have good mentors and if the environment is supportive, because you can see people are in the lab doing good science and they are just loving it, yeah? So that really made me have the ambition of establishing a similar ecosystem back in Nigeria. So now when I finished my master's, I sent an email again to Lucia and Tom and Sadiq. I said, by that time, they have established Trend in Africa. I said, I want to establish something that can bring together scientists of like minds for us to advance science, neuroscience research in Nigeria. How did they do that? How did they achieve what they did with the Trend? Now they said, why don't you join Trend in Africa? Because you don't have to start something afresh. We have already done this. Join us so that we can continue together. So that's how I joined Trend in Africa. In 2013, I went to the same school that I couldn't go in 2011. This was me, and this is Tom, and this is Lucia. So basically, and you can see for those in Nigeria, this is Professor Amborno, Professor Njuma Nuhu, Prof. Sadiq. So that was a game changer, because these different sets of individuals, alongside a mentor of mine that I met when I came back from my master's, Professor Issa Hussein Marte, really kind of shaped my thinking into believing that I could do something, I could establish something, similar to what I experienced in the UK. And Professor Issa was particularly very instrumental because he is a scientist that became successful, leading research in the United States, but he decided to come back to Nigeria to now change the ecosystem. So seeing him and him coming together with me to go to different places just to support me, that really, really kind of made me believe that I could achieve all these different things. Yeah. And of course, when I joined Train in Africa, I started the outreach program of Train in Africa, and basically does like a program where we organize outreach activities in schools for the communities, and basically to increase the understanding of science. We started with colleagues like Mustafa and others, and these are all wherever you see these green are places where we organize outreach activities. So we were able to influence millions of Africans directly and indirectly. And this has been really, really instrumental in me being conferred with the Shetima MOB title that Bright rightly mentioned at the beginning of my talk. But basically, to tell you how it happened, this was me in 2013, the first outreach activity that I conducted. I was supposed to be joined by three of my colleagues, but they couldn't come because of the Boko Haram crisis during that time. So I went to a school, Yobe, I think it was Yobe Children's Academy. So that's where I started. I have organized other activities, together with other colleagues. This is in Gombe, and in Lagos, we brought in equipment to establish, a small research unit. So basically, all these different things made me establish alongside my brother Science Communication Hub Nigeria, which is like a platform to enhance communication of science, across Nigeria, and later on also to establish the African Science Literacy Network with the support of the Wellcome Trust. So basically, this is a story, of its own, and I don't have the time to go into that. But basically, all these different things now set me up into now saying, okay, I want to launch now a center by RTC. So in 2020, the University of Sussex helped me to write an article that was published on the Times Higher Education, where they mentioned that this is a Nigerian that wants to establish a center in his home university, and if anyone wants to partner or they have equipment that they want to give us. So that was really, really instrumental alongside Training in Africa that allowed me now to have the starting material. Yeah. So basically, the Yobe State government said, okay, we will be able to support all shipment of equipment. We will also give you all the support that you need to do that. Yobe State University said, we will provide you with the space to establish the laboratory. Train in Africa said, okay, we will help you with finding equipment. And of course, because of the network of people that I have gathered over the years, I got support from other places like the University of York, University of Sussex, and many other places. So that really now provided the starting equipment, starting ingredients for the center that we now call BioRTC. Yeah. Bright, I'm very sorry. I think I'm going a little bit over time. Should I speed up? Should I conclude? Okay. The silence means that maybe I can continue. All right.
Yeah. Sorry. My Zoom was misbehaving. Please go ahead. Go ahead. We are enjoying this.
Okay. Thank you very much. So basically now that you have seen this, some people might be wondering, okay, why Yobe? Why did I decide to establish that in Yobe State instead of in other places? Yeah. So of course, like I mentioned, I was born and raised in Yobe. Yeah. And one thing that I've come to realize, because I established, of course, the first neuroscience laboratory in Gombe State University with the support of colleagues and trained in Africa. And that hasn't really been as successful as I had hoped for it to be. And then I was also in Lagos. I brought in equipment to try to establish the a active research at the University of Lagos. That wasn't as successful. I was also, I supported an institution in Sudan and also a few places also in Uganda. All those different initiatives didn't succeed. And later on, I realized that one of the reasons is because for you to build something perhaps that is going to be sustainable or which is going to be good, you need at least three things. You need international qualification. You also need you need international network. You need qualification, and then if you have these two, if you have any of these, that might help you to establish institutional support. Because if you have the international network that can support you, like I was supported, with equipment, with funding, etc., and you have the qualification, you can't say you want to establish something if you are not qualified. No one will look at you and say you are qualified to do this. And so if you have the local connection, it will automatically allow you to get institutional support. And institutional support can allow you to get government support. Or if you have these two and you have support from politicians or support from community, that can also allow you to get institutional support. And basically that can also drive you to get government support. And if you have this and you have government support, you can also now get institutional support. So therefore, there are a lot of ways you can get this, but you need at least 3 ingredients. Yeah. So that really helped us to get institutional support, government support, and because of course I have the local connections because I was born and raised there. My father, was a civil servant that was quite respected. He reached the pinnacle of his career as a permanent secretary, well respected before he retired. So basically, the local connection is there. So that allowed us to get the space. In year 1, we were located in the College of Medical Sciences. This was the space that they gave us to establish BioRTC at that time. And in the second year, the government of Yobe State basically, said, and that's thanks to like people in the university, like the registrar who was really, really supportive, and the secretary to the state government, Baba Malum Wali. So basically, the government now said, we would move to this site since that space is small for you. And basically now the government realized, and because we told them that this space again is not enough, in third year they were already building something big for us. And in fact now in the fourth year the building has been completed. This is like 4 or 5 months ago. I don't have a new photo, but basically in the next week or so we will be moving into the new permanent site of the center that was built by the government. So this was possible. All this story has been we have documented it in a paper that we published in the European Journal of Neuroscience. And the summary is that with BioRTC now established, we had built the core infrastructure to support iPSC modeling, biobanking, and disease research, all within an African-led institution. Because all these things I was telling you simply so that you can understand, we wanted to establish something that can allow us to do the stem cell research that I was telling you about. So now within the next 5 minutes, I'm going to try to round up. I'm going to tell you now why I'm coming back home. What am I coming back to do? So basically, I am now moving from the UK, where I've spent the last 14 years of my life, where I have become a citizen of the United Kingdom, but where I'm getting all the support that I need to succeed as a scientist, but I am coming back home. Why? Because I received funding from the Wellcome Trust, a Wellcome Trust Career Development Award, which is highly, highly prestigious award that will fund my team from 2025 until 2033, so for the next 8 years. And what we're going to be doing is to work on something that we coined the African iPSC Initiative. Basically, we want to integrate cohorts and iPSCs to transform global research. So basically, we will be collecting or recruiting people that are healthy and those that have, for example, dementia, from whom to collect biopsies or blood cells to generate the stem cells that I told you about that can be used to grow any cell type. And from these stem cells, we can edit some of them to become, to have disease in a dish, and all of this we want to now, make it available through open access, Biobank. And of course, this will allow us to be able to, conduct groundbreaking discoveries, for example, to model diseases and to be able to do drug screening for the first time in cells within our own population. And why am I saying this? Now think about it. Have you ever wondered I mean, I've given you the example with cystic fibrosis, yeah? But also in drug screening, clinical trials are done where you first have to start from the lab, yeah? You conduct screening to see if, the potential compound has the efficacy or has the potential or has the merit to be taken to, clinical trials. And then you go to stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So most of these clinical trials are, and Bright will correct me if I'm wrong, since it's also a physician, most of these clinical trials are conducted on people of European ancestry. And therefore, I like to argue that this is partly why sometimes when you take drug, you might end up with a side effect, because it has not been tested on our own population. So these stem cells that we are generating will now allow us to at least do some of these screenings in cells from our own population. And that is going to help us in kind of improving precision in clinical trials. Yeah. So basically, this is what the funding is going to allow us to do. And already in BioRTC now, my students are able to generate, for example, the somatic cells that we can now use to produce stem cells. And also from blood cells, we are able to now kind of produce erythroid progenitor cells that we can use to grow stem cells. So basically now with that kind of like knowledge, with that expertise now, we have moved into, establishing dementia cohort. So this is the Northern Nigeria Dementia Group that I helped establish 2 years ago with clinicians from about 6 different hospitals, and which is funded by the Rainwater Charitable Foundation and Alzheimer's Association. And basically, the major aim is to be able to recruit people that have dementia, that we can now use to grow stem cells that we can now use to understand this condition in a dish. Because remember, to understand dementia, you need brain tissue. You need people to give you brain tissue. And we know that we can't get access to that because of the cultural and religious norms. So these stem cells can allow us to be able to do that. So we have published papers in this regards. And in fact, just last 2 months, I was in Nigeria where we conducted field work. We screened over 1,000 people, collected almost 1,000 biopsies, collected over 1,000, cognitive assessment, as well as other blood, assays to begin to do this work where we establish a cohort that can allow us to match stem cells with the cohort or with the people with the condition that the people have. So overall, we would be having these cells in an open access biobank, and already for some of the cells that we have established, they are accessible. If someone goes to the BioRTC website, you just go to the resources and you go to the African Ipsc initiative and you scroll down, you'll now be able to see the cellular bank. And in the cellular bank now, you'll now be able to click, and that will allow you to go to the portal. So you will see all the different iPSCs that we have generated. In the next 2-3 years, we will be generating probably up to 60 iPSC lines from this cohort. And we have now collected over 1,000 biopsies. So which means that with future fundings, we will be in a position to establish one of the biggest iPSC biobanks ever in the world, not just in Africa. So basically, to conclude, this is where I tell you that now we would be able to proudly say from Nigeria to the world, we are generating something for the first time that is unique to the rest of the world. And therefore, finally, I want to tell you about our ambition in 1 or 2 minutes, because this is just the beginning. This is just our starting point. And because our ambition is big. What we want to do over the next few years, is to be able to have a cohort of people that have dementia and those that are healthy, that we will now subject to neuropsychiatric evaluation, confirm diagnosis using, for example, brain scan, biofluid biomarkers. And then we will now be collecting skin biopsies and blood cells to generate stem cells. But what is more important is we will be using these stem cells to now generate cells from the different parts of the brain, because remember, these are cells that we can now use to grow anything. So we can now even grow brain tissue in a dish, 3D organoids. And now we will now be kind of aligning that with sequencing, and many other techniques with artificial intelligence that will allow us, for example, to say hey, tissue from, this individual has this particular thing in their DNA, and because of this, his family is likely going to develop this in the next few years, and therefore to avoid this, they need to do this. So this is the level of precision that we will be able to achieve with this level of research in the next few years. But what else can we do? What else can we do? So this is a map of the world again, showing us the burden of neurological disorders. Africa has one of the highest burden of neurological disorders. And any disease that has to do with the brain, you have to have the brain tissue to be able to understand it. That's the best way for you to understand it. But since you cannot ask someone to give you their brain tissue, and even after death, our people, because of the taboo, they don't give access to, to brain tissue. It means that now with this stem cell technology, we can be able to grow cells from people with diverse sets of neurological disorders to be able to understand it in our own people. And so someday, what we will be able to do is perhaps to collect cells from these people, grow it into perhaps different brain cell types, test drugs on them, and perhaps be able to reverse the neurological, problem affecting them. So our vision is to be able to have a future where the world's most genetically diverse continent, that is Africa, is no longer the most underrepresented in disease research, but a leader in discovery, innovation, and equity. And with this, I know I've taken exactly 60 minutes. I would like to end this presentation by thanking a lot of different people from across the world: United Kingdom, France, Nigeria, United States, our funders, and many, many, many people, especially with BioRTC, the government of Yobe State, for all the support that has enabled us to come this far. And with the Wellcome Trust funding now, we will be starting, or we have started, a new chapter, which I believe is going to be transformative for African science. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry for taking too much of your time.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. I think this is beautiful. And I have to announce before I go on to say that we are not going to have the breakout sessions today. Because I don't want to break the inspiration you have received from this. This has really given me confidence. It has really given me confidence. And of course, what we have been doing in ASFI is quite basic. But in your field, there is an African story, and that is what I love from what you have presented here. There is an African story, and this African story, I think we need to appreciate it. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to just use your reactions here to let's give a round of applause to our brother and professor. He's young, he's not up to 40 actually, and you can see what he has done. This is quite inspiring. And for me, to tell the African story is important. And your conclusion is what we all should be speaking. I have picked a lot of things from here, and that is there are possibilities in Africa. It is not all about bad stories. For this to be coming up, and you're telling us in few years' time, this will represent one of the best in the world. What a story. And colleagues, you see, it is good. I mean, you see the way Africa is, you can decide to run away and find your space abroad. But he has every comfort to live there. He has everything, to relax there. But he's bringing a story back to our continent to support what is happening there. And I hope that those of you who have been SFI can relate this. The African story is really littered everywhere, and it makes us proud. Prof. Maina, the future is so bright because at this stage you have started. I think it's really unstoppable. But some of the things you mentioned, because as you spoke, I went back to the topic you presented. I think I can show it. I can show it here because your topic was so long that some people would wonder what is all about. Quite technical, but your presentation has made it quite simple. It's a long story. Perhaps that is why the title of your presentation is long. But the aspect I can relate here so much is when you say when local connections meet global collaboration. When local connections meet global collaboration. And that is the key to this. Because if you have gone to Yobe State and the governor is not interested, your story wouldn't have been so bright like this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, it wouldn't have been so bright. And of course, the governor may say yes, but you also need support team around you there. Those who believe in your vision, those who can align with you. And you mentioned your dad who was there. He has some buttons he pressed because he saw something that is promising along, and then you connect with those that you have formed from some network before outside your state or outside your country to support you in this journey. But colleagues, at the end of the day, I saw a story that is not full of only success. He mentioned lots of challenges. When he came, he picked some cells, he traveled, some died, he came back. The African story is a story full of challenges. He would have decided to give up and say, well, I'm not doing this anymore. But persistence paid off for him. Okay? The African story is not an easy story. It's full of challenges, but we are going to get there. You know, when I started ASFI, I was talking to somebody to get an idea and to say, well, this is what is in my heart I want to do. And I got a question. And the person asked me, Bright, what do you really want to do? Do you want to make money or do you want to make a name? Because these are the two things that when people start things like this, that is what we see. I say, well, none of the above. I just want to express myself. I just want to do what is in my heart. You know, I started anyway, connecting colleagues, doing the best I can. After 6 months, he sent me a text. Do you have time to speak? I say yes. And then he said, I want to say I am impressed. I'm impressed that you didn't give up because I'm following behind the scene to see what is happening in ASFI. And I can see that something is happening. I just want to encourage you. Keep moving. Keep moving. Don't give up. And that is where we are today. And Prof. Maina, I just want to say thank you for sharing this and to congratulate you for not giving up. And where you are today, I tell you, you are unstoppable because Yobe and your center will someday become a hub. Perhaps the governor should now be thinking of building a hotel, big hotel around there, because soon people will be coming there to lodge to really have access to what is happening in that center. We are really grateful to hear this story. It's quite encouraging. It's quite inspiring. Here is full of many young African scientists who are looking for such story to let them know you can pick up from where you are and there is a future. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
One thing just to say, most of the presentation perhaps has focused on the success, even not the challenges. For those young and those in my career stage, I have to say that even for the Wellcome Trust, before I reach that level, I think I have made over 15 applications since 20 18 for different fellowships, either 3-year, 5-year fellowships, and over 90% of these were rejected. In fact, even for the Wellcome Trust, when I did make the application, at first it was rejected. I had to build a network of mentors around me. I had to always go back to the beginning to look at it, to change the story, to kind of revise and revamp it before I reach this level. So in most of our presentations, we just show the success, but there's a lot of challenge. But I believe this is something that Africa has given us. We are born, with the ability to be able to overcome challenges. And this is something, therefore, I want the audience here to understand. It's not going to be easy, but think about it. In Africa, when has it ever been easy? And so if I can succeed like this, it means that you can also succeed. Just 2 or 3 days ago, there is someone who we helped in doing his mock presentation for career development award similar to mine. So we did that to him 2 or 3 weeks ago. 2 days ago, he sent us an email thanking us for helping him with mock presentation because he has received the funding, and it has also not been easy for him. So I think story is changing. So I just want the audience to appreciate that they can also achieve something even greater than what I have achieved at my age.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And yeah, we have similar things. I had a PhD student who finished last year, and then she got a postdoc in another university here. So she said she wanted to have final meet with me, and I was quite intentional on that. So we had 2 hours, and then what I told her was not a success. I told her the challenges. As an African, I opened up to her, and she didn't speak a word. Finally, she said, "Bright, do you mean you faced all these things?" I said, "Yeah." But it wasn't showing on your face. So of course, you have to you have to look into the future. When you understand that challenges will come along the way, you don't focus on the challenges, otherwise they will pull you down. All right. We are very grateful, colleagues. I don't see any question here. I see everybody celebrating, everybody is happy, and yeah, things are going on well. And perhaps we may end early today, but just give me a few minutes. Let me make the final presentation. Okay, I see a hand. I see a hand. I see Samuel. Yeah, we can take that. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Prof, thank you, Prof, for allowing me to speak. And I was expecting to call for reactions from the audience, because this kind of discussion that we have had this evening should not go without us not having a word, especially to say that I'm a Nigerian, and I've also looked at the story of Prof. Maina, and I'm becoming emotional as I'm sitting down here with you this evening to listen to what he was saying, and I can feel the pulse of the challenges that he has onboarding in the course of presenting this success, because I've actually worked within the Nigerian space politically, career-wise, and I can tell you the challenges that are abound, not this thing. But one interesting thing that actually amazed me this evening is that this hub is coming up in the north, even in Yobe State, where some of us classified, some of us are from Southwest. We see this kind of areas as a place where education is not well defined, where not captured. But I can tell you this evening that Prof has really made a very huge motivation to someone like us, and I look forward to say that this project will go further. But I have a concern in my mind because of the fact that Nigeria is a very diverse when it comes to politics, and volatile when it comes to politics. And I was just checking the background of the Yobe State governor, looking at what he has been doing and his trajectory in politics, and I can tell you that has actually giving you a might, because it's a force to reckon with when it comes to political cloud in the northern part and also in the ruling party of the country. So, Prof, my question to you, or my concern to you, is that after 8 years of the funding that you have on this particular hub, what do you think will be the I don't know if you have projected a kind of a challenge that can come up because of the idea of the political imbalances in Nigeria. So I'm just trying to say this so that you have this in mind, because there's a need for us to look at it. And I want to conclude by saying this. Prof. Bright has mentioned something which I also key into. One of the things I have in my mind, that we need to start planning for sustainability plan for this hub by encouraging the current political class to build a kind of a tourism hub around this particular center, so that it will be like a private-driven concern that will also provide funding to sustain this project even after the present governor finish his term, and possibly if a PDP come in place or any other party come in place, you might dislike your dad. You must understand what I'm saying. That person might dislike your dad, and before you know it, they start building a lot of political imbalance, and we're bringing out EFCC or DSS around you, and before you know it, the hub is coming down. Prof, this is my concern, and I thank you for this. Well done.
If I could quickly just comment on that, I completely, agree with your concern. This is a typical thing that happens in many different places, not just in Africa, I think in low middle income countries. But one thing that we have been able to do, which is important, is to ensure that the center is autonomous. So the center is, although located within Yobe University, but it's autonomous in nature, with its own governance and vision that aligns with that of the university. And in addition to that, also the government has recognized that and is giving it its own independent funding. But then think about it. Even in the United States, UK, US, US, UK, and other places, sustainability of any research or any activity depends on the center or researchers within that institution being able to attract funding from, from funders, from philanthropies, from a farmer, etc. And this is therefore one of the key things that we have also made people in the center, and it's part of our vision for whoever we are going to recruit or whoever is going to come to the center to understand. If you are coming to BioRTC, for example, our scale for salary on grant is international scale. So if, for example, you're applying for Wellcome Trust funding, you are going to apply for that funding with a salary as if you are in the UK, because this is our scale that has been approved as an autonomous center. But it also means that we get to attract the best minds. And it is through that, a mechanism that we can get the funding through indirect costs, through other ways that we can be able to sustain the center, even if another politician comes and said that they are not going to support us. And even now, our major funding is coming from international organizations. So I believe that this is something that is going to address that issue of sustainability. But of course, I'm happy to hear more ideas even through emails later on if you have other ideas to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think I get Samuel's concerns, but I think we need to continuously become more human beings. Okay, because this is about human beings. What is here is a story of health. It's a story that concerns whoever comes to power. It doesn't matter. So we need to think about that. These things that happen sometimes don't represent the human beings in us. But this is a fantastic story. I believe anybody who comes to power and is reasonable will buy to promote.
And quickly also just to say, Bright, that I don't know how I missed that, but yes, you see in Yobe now, the people, they are just so happy and they identify very well with BioRTC. The emirate, the traditional rulers and other people, they are always happy with what we're doing, especially now that we are leading research into understanding kidney disease that is a major problem in the region. Yeah. And we are also working on other things. So I believe, like you mentioned, since what we are doing is basically using science to address societal problem, whoever comes, they should see us as stakeholders that can help in fulfilling their our campaign, our promises to make Yobe or the region entirely more healthier, and the more healthier, the better economy. So I really believe in that.
All right, I have 2 hands. We'll take these 2 hands. And before we go, I have Gamaliel John. Gamaliel John, please unmute yourself and speak, and then I will come to Nusra.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't know if you can all hear me.
Hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. So, this is actually my first time joining, and I actually want to say thank you for allowing me in. And so my question goes like this. I am currently a medical student here in Gombe State University, and I'm actually passionate about going into research. So I know that the question might sound childish, but I just want to throw it out. So the question is, I've been passionate about going into research and stuff like this. That's why I actually joined. So my question to the professor is that how would he how would he advise me to pursue, to pursue this dream of being a researcher, even as a medical student, like the steps to follow? Because I've actually been discouraged by a lot of our lecturers here and there. So I just want him to just tell me what to do, sir. I don't know. That's why I said the question might sound somehow, but I just want to throw it out, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Because this story is actually inspiring and I would like to be like this someday. Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to give you my can you send me a Zoom message, a private message? I will give you my email and we can now get to connect, because perhaps what you need is a mentorship that should go beyond just a response to your answer. So I'm happy to interact with you and give you that if you are up for it.
Yeah. So, Gamaliel, please take that opportunity. It's not a question that is easily answered within the few minutes we have, but like Prof said, perhaps you need mentorship, and you have to connect with a part of his story when he said he missed his scholarship. Somehow he got there, and then his mind was blown off. Wow, what is happening here? So perhaps you need such touches, but it's good that you can reach out to him. But if you want to continuously engage in this discussion, I also invite you join ASFI. Join ASFI. There are many colleagues at your level who are here who are beginning to find their space as well when it comes to research. One of the things Prof said was that there is power in unity. There's power in unity coming together. Being on your own, you can achieve very little, but coming together, there are a lot we can achieve, particularly inspiration, as we have had this evening. All right, I have Nusra Afolabi Baloko, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. Bright. I'm Nusra Afolabi Baloko.
Nusra, we don't hear you. We don't hear you anymore.
From Fountain University. He is a mentor. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you,
Hello?
can you
hear
repeat?
me now?
Yes, can you repeat yourself? We didn't get what you said.
Yes.
Nusra, sorry.
Initial greetings. Then I said I must. He was one of the management of my laboratory in Oshogo. Can you hear now?
Your line is not good, Nusra, to be frank. It breaks and then we are cut off from what you're saying.
Okay.
Can you try again? Yeah, try again.
Yeah, I was saying Professor Maina is a mentor and a source of inspiration. His establishment was a factor leading to what I have currently in Oshogo. And one thing I want to ask him, I've asked him one or twice, I still need to learn how he's doing the collaboration, cooperation, getting the cooperation of the stakeholders in a country like ours is something researchers that are committed to establishing similar thing are facing. And this is still what we would want to learn from him. Getting support is not something that is very easy. You want to bring in your fund, but the sharing formula, as usual in Nigeria, still remain an hindering factor. And he will tell us that when you get funds from bodies like UKRI or Wellcome, it is definite and you know what you must do with it. So that is a major challenge I'm still looking at solving.
So I think Nusra, this still goes back to this slide that I shared earlier. Most of my philosophy has come through this, and also because I've failed also several times with Gombe, with Lagos, and other places. I believe the answer would be long, and I'll be happy for you. I've said this before, for you to come to the center at some point so that we can engage more closely. But the short answer is if you have international networks that believe in your vision, that can support you, and you have the qualification which you have, I think it becomes a bit easier for you to be able to maneuver your way first at the institutional level. The institutional level, because if you are bringing something, you come with a power, with the ability to negotiate your terms. And this is the same thing with England as well, because if you are bringing in funding, you be able to negotiate your terms because you bring in some money that would support the administrative, governance of the institution. So, in nutshell, therefore, you must be able to utilize your international networks very well in your negotiations. This is something that has been really, really critical for me. Unfortunately, sometimes our people also like to see that you are connected internationally, you have the backing of the people there. For example, for BioRTC to become autonomous, we had to sit down and have a memorandum of understanding with Trend in Africa, of course, with your state, with the university, and also with the center. And the Trend in Africa, because they are international, they supported me and everything. They help a lot in ensuring that my kind of like my requirements or my needs are met in that MOU. So I would say in nutshell, utilize your international resources very well.
Thank you very much, Prof. Maina. I will definitely come to Yobe.
Yeah, come, we can talk more about this.
Yes, I'm still in the
Complete
UK,
our
but
paper.
now
Let me share the paper. Let me share the paper with people because I think the paper also has a lot of lessons that people might want to first read, which is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that Prof. Maina has an open door policy. So please, I encourage you, those he has invited, take advantage of that. Some of the concerns you have may not be exhaustively discussed here. And that is one aspect of career development that is important. Experiences matter a lot, and people have different experiences they can share with you that can support you. So please take advantage of that and organize a time. Colleagues, I know that some of you are putting some questions there. Like I said, perhaps I will allow this, Prof. There was one I saw. If you can answer this, Tomado is asking, is there any possibility that this biobank serves other types of diseases rather than dementia? Perhaps if you can respond to that.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, what we are trying to do now is to have as many diseases as possible, and also to also have people from other African countries who are interested in establishing IPSCs to come to my facility and learn some things. But I've told a few students that there are a few funding that allow for people to mobility to go to another lab, so sometimes they give you 5,000, sometimes they give you 10,000. So I'm happy for people to actually apply for that. We can work together with them to apply for that, to come and learn this and then go back there to their institutions and establish something, even if it means biopsy biobank at first, that you can now apply for further funding. So the answer is yes, we are interested in expanding, and secondly, we are interested in building the capacity of people from other places, not just within Nigeria but outside Nigeria, to be able to do this in their own places.
All right. So that's the good news. So please, if you are wondering, he has given you the open door. Reach out to him as well, and then discuss it, colleagues. I don't want to take you longer than we planned. Today is Sunday, and most of us we go to prepare for the beginning of the week. But this is night edition, and you can see what happens here. Last month, we had a colleague of mine who told her story. Somebody's annotating my screen. Please let me stop sharing and share again. Please don't annotate. That bothers me here. Okay, so she told her story of connecting Sweden and South Africa, this lesson she have learned. So we're here having many stories from different perspectives, many stories. And I hope that this evening has inspired you. If it has, I tell you that you will hear a different dimension in the 10th edition. This is Professor Olubukola Babalola. She's a shining star, and I tell you, she has been with us in ASFI here several times. With the knowledge and experiences she has generated, we have invited her to talk about the pain and gain of research collaboration. She'll be telling her story from what she has learned. This will be coming. You will get the information. Let me see. This will be coming on the 26th of October. 26th of October. So please join us on that date, and we will reach out to you. My colleague has been sending some information. Please, Ajibola, if you can put up our WhatsApp, general WhatsApp link, so that those who want to connect. Otherwise, we have our newsletter that goes twice a month. If we have your email, of course, you register for this meeting, we'll put your email there so they can get our newsletter. If you don't want to be part of that, you can just unsubscribe yourself. But we'll do that so that information for those who are joining for the first time, they can receive our information. All right. I mentioned about the ASFI 510 program. For those who are ASFI members, there is good news. For those of you who are mentees perhaps, or you are playing a role in different programs, one of the things we are trying to do is to connect you with the cohort we are recruiting next year. We call you mentee pals. And who are they? They are experienced and so this is committed participants drawn from SFI members who are appointed to serve as peer support leaders and facilitators within the SFI 510 program. Okay, so those we are recruiting next year, we want to pair you with them so that you can support them. And we see this as one way of growing as well. Okay, it's not enough that you get from people. It's good that you also give out. Learn to give out. Learn to make mistakes. Learn to generate your experiences. So we'll be announcing this soon, very, very soon. If you are interested, you apply. We're going to scrutinize because we want people who are very committed and will support this program through next year. And then, of course, the Prof. Warren's career audit, the consultation time we have, 5th edition, is coming on the 3rd of October. All right. Your questions. How do I start? How do I grow? How do I nurture? And so on. The challenges that face you in your career. On Friday, the workshop was on career decorations, and they will be focusing on that this coming Friday. But yeah, it's open for any question at all. 2 hours, we'll be digging deep. Please join us next Friday. And I have to say again, our conference is still open for registration. It is coming on the 25th to 27th of November. But we have a pre-conference session where we have 2 workshops on the 24th. I encourage you to register to be part of this exciting moment. And if you have abstract, remember that the deadline is 30th of September, 2 days from now. Colleagues, it has been a beautiful evening, and I thank you for coming. Prof. Maina, please, thank you for this opportunity of sharing your story. I always tell those who have come, and I keep to my word, this is not the last. We'll bring you up again, so that we can learn from you. Everybody was excited this evening. Colleagues, we'll draw the curtain here, and I wish you a very wonderful week as you journey through this week. Thank you, and have a good evening. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful evening, wonderful lectures and inspiration.
Thank you wonderful night.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. It's wonderful.
Stories,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And thank you, Prof. Maina. I learned so much from today's inspiration story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Greetings from Malaysia.
Who can tell a story like you?
This is so wonderful. It is a great moment to have about you, sir. It is a wonderful encouragement.
Why is night?
Thank you. Have a good week, everyone. Have a good week.